Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Ghost Biker Garage. I am your host, the Ghost Biker, and we have a wonderful show for you tonight. I hope everyone is doing well and enjoying this beautiful warm weather. As a biker, it has been perfect riding weather. I know yesterday put 100 miles on the bike and went to tourism meeting, working on some tourism things for us there at the historic Scott County Jail. Got to meet with my business partner, Dr. Christy Sumner. And like I said, we had a really great meeting. We've got some really great things planned there at the historic Scott County Jail. So just want to cover a couple things that we've got going on. Say hello to everyone over here in the chat room. Hello, Dr. Sumner, Sheila Brown, Janet Alms. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I know we got a few more people on there. So if you guys have any questions for myself or for the guest tonight, please be sure when you put those in the chat room there that you put them in all caps, just so that whenever we're going through that we'll be able to see them and be able to not miss you whenever while we're having the conversation. What we'll do when we get to a break, we'll ask those questions, because I know tonight is, we've got such a great topic, and I know a lot of people always have a lot of questions about that. So again, just make sure you put your questions in all caps over there whenever we get on with the show. But I want to take a few minutes to talk about a little bit of business of things that are going on. As of Saturday, we've been talking about this every week for probably the past 6 weeks, but this coming weekend is the second annual Harold Young Memorial Scholarship Ride, and I'm actually going to pull that up full screen there so that everyone can see it. We've been showing some videos about that, as well as talking about the event that's coming up. Registration starts at 10 a.m. and it runs until 2. You don't have to show up right at 10. That's just whenever it starts. But it is the second annual Harold Young Memorial Scholarship Dart Run. The funds that are raised from this actually goes to a scholarship that was created in honor of my dad, who was a science teacher. And the funds go to a Scott County High School student who is majoring in the field of science. And so this year we're giving a $1,000 scholarship. The winner of that scholarship, she did find out last weekend during her graduation, and she's going to be joining us at 1:30 to accept the scholarship money. And we're hoping this year through the Dart Run to be able to raise even more money for next year's scholarship. There are 3 stops on this. We've had a lot of people say, hey, what's a dart run? If you know what a poker run is, it's like that, but this is a game of skill rather than a game of chance. So you're going to be meeting at the historic Scott County Jail between 10 and 11, and you'll play a hand of darts. Then you'll go to the second stop, which is Dilligaff Motorcycle Shop. You'll throw another hand of darts, and then you'll go down to the Widow's Sons Masonic Writers Association Lodge, which is down in Robbins, and that is the Robbins F and AM Lodge that's down there. We've got all of the addresses that we'll give you. We'll have that actually posted tonight, but at the end there, you will be able to have lunch as well as finish your last round of darts, and then we'll be announcing the winner. We'll be presenting the scholarship. We just got a whole lot of things going on with that. It is $20 per player, and you don't have to be a motorcycle rider to participate. All vehicles are welcome, and as we said, the price does include the meal ticket. So we're super excited about that, hoping to have a really good turnout. Don't worry about the gas prices, because it's a short distance, but it's a lot of fun, and so we had a great time last year. We'll be showing the video again before Saturday's event, and you'll be able to see kind of a little more of what was going on with that. But the sponsors are myself, as well as the Widow's Sons, Historic Scott County Jail, Dilligaff Motorcycle Shop, Mash Thumb, and Fat Baby Meats. So again, a lot of people coming together for this great cause. And we do have, if you can't make it to the event, you can still donate, and we've got the address for that up on the Historic Scott County Jail page, as well as the Ghost Biker event page. So you'll be able to go on there and you can still donate to the scholarship even if you can't attend the event. Also, let's see, we actually just announced on the historic Scott County Jail page, but we're officially announcing here we have our Ghost Biker ride that's going to be next weekend, which is May 28th. It's going to be on Memorial Day weekend. Typically, we do a haunted ride with Ghost Biker. This year, we are partnering again with R.M. Brooks General Store as well as the historic Scott County Jail, and we're doing a 98-mile motorcycle ride, and we're going to be stopping at the R.M. Brooks General Store for lunch, as well as going through the beautiful Big South Fork. And then that ride will end at the historic Scott County Jail with a guided tour of the True Crime and Punishment Museum that's there. The event's going to go, its kickstands up at 11 a.m. and it's going to go to roughly about, well, we should be going back to the jail about 3. R.M. Brooks is having a motorcycle appreciation day. And so they're going to have live music. They're going to have, of course, their amazing food that they always have. And they're going to have some free gifts for people there. I believe they got a commemorative motorcycle sticker that you'll get. And you'll also get a poker chip, a historic Scott County Jail poker chip with your admission cost. So the cost for that ride is $20. And I'm going to pull that up there just so we will, like I said, we will have more information about that. But we do have it up on the historic Scott County Jail Facebook page. It's got all of the information on it, and it has pretty much everything but the map. So we're super, super excited about that. And like I said, it is $20, and the cost does cover the admission to the jail, as well as the motorcycle ride and a bunch of freebies that you're going to get included in that with the jail or with your admission costs. So I'm going to go, I want to show a quick video from the first ride. It kind of shows a little bit about the R.M. Brooks General Store. So if you've not been there and you've not participated in, let's see, I guess this is the 4th year that we have done a haunted ride with Ghost Biker that has had an event at the R.M. Brooks General Store. So it's a little different this year because it's not a bike event. It's a full biker appreciation day. But I'll go ahead quickly and show a video from just so you kind of get an idea what the event was like. So bear with me just a second. And here we go. All right. So again, like I said, we are going to be going through some of the most haunted and historic areas on the Cumberland Plateau here in East Tennessee on this 98-mile motorcycle ride. And Oran Brooks is just one of the historic places we'll be stopping. And that guided ghost tour, or excuse me, guided that guided tour of the historic Scott County Jail will be covering the history as well as some of the paranormal things that have happened there at the jail. So we're definitely going to want to get in on this ride, and we have to have 8 bikes for the ride to make. So so we'll post the link and all of that, but it is where you can get the tickets there on the historic Scott County Jail page, as well as on the Ghost Biker Explorations page. So anyways, so we're going to go ahead now that we've covered that. We just got a whole lot going on over the next little bit. So I want to go ahead on tonight's. He is the Director of Investigations with ERC, which is the Extraterrestrial Research Center. In addition to becoming a certified UFO Field Investigator through MUFON, Mr. Warner is also a UFO researcher and is the U.S. Ambassador to the Italian UFO Federation, or FUI. He is also the Lead Investigator, Tech Manager, and Director of Client Relations for Phantom Detectives. So if you will, help me in welcoming my guest, Mr. Rick Warner. Hey, Rick.
Hey there, how you doing?
I'm
Good
doing
to be
well.
on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to come on with us tonight.
Oh yeah, happy to be here.
Wonderful. So why don't you go ahead, and I know you've got an impressive background, and I know you are extremely busy when it comes to both your research with UFOs as well as the paranormal. So why don't you go ahead and tell us who you are and how you got started?
Okay, well, currently right now, so as mentioned, so I am the Executive Director for my organization, which is ERC, Extraterrestrial Research Center. And, the organization is, fairly new. It's been around about a couple of years now. So, and basically what we do, this particular website that I have, it's a place for people to come and get educated about the subject of anything, UFO related, or UAP, if you want to call it that. There's a lot of resources there. There's a UFO dictionary that you can learn, as explains, different abbreviations and terms and things of what that means. There's also some videos that you could watch, some YouTube videos. There's also, now we have a new event page where there's going to be, I just posted one event there now, and there's going to be some more coming along the way of different upcoming events for like virtual conferences and things like that involve, extraterrestrial type matter. And, there's other educational things too that you can learn about some things that are going on in research. And one thing too is there's an area where if someone sees something out in the sky or on the ground, and you want to submit a sighting report, you could definitely do that on the website. But due to the large amount of reports that get submitted, because basically there's just myself and my director of research, Lou Demiri, who works on a few projects for me, but there's not enough, the manpower to be able to investigate a lot of cases, because it really takes a long time to conduct a thorough investigation. And so for that reason, we only select the cases to investigate that we feel are going to be the most valid cases. Sometimes we get hoax cases too. So, that happens. But yeah, it's definitely something that I do. It's strictly a volunteer. I don't get this. It's a passion of mine. It's something that I love to do. And so to me, that's kind of like my payment for, the passion is it's not about the money for me. It's about, educating people on the subject of UAPs and getting the word out there. So yeah, so I'm definitely involved in different things. And yeah, and I started, so when I was a kid, so how this all got started was, it kind of goes way back to my childhood. So I remember I was driving around with my mom in the car, and this was in Southern California. And there's this freeway, what we call the freeway, you guys probably call the highway over there, but it goes east and west. And I remember seeing what looked like a saucer-shaped object that just flew in the sky, and everything happened really quick, and then it like took off. Within the blink of an eye, it was just gone. Where was it? So my mom and her friend were kind of talking to each other, so they really didn't see what was going on, and I didn't feel comfortable talking to the kids at school about it because back then it was just like you would be considered like nuts. It's like before they started sending man to the moon, before all that took place, and you were saying like, well, someday, man's going to, send astronauts to the moon, they would think that you're quite crazy, So, yeah. So ever since then, I started building up an interest. And I remember I was watching different TV shows on, UFO Matter, different UFO shows and that kind of thing. And, I saw MUFON on there a couple times, which stands for Mutual UFO Network. And then, I started looking into it, and I went to the MUFON website and, wrote the state director. And then the next thing you knew, I was doing my training to be a certified field UFO investigator. And their training is very extensive, I will say that. I mean, there's like a big, huge manual of stuff that you have to read. I mean, the book is just, this thick. And they also have a university of, different certificates and things you can earn. So I did a lot of training, and the training is always ongoing, the field training, that kind of thing. And I just come to the conclusion that, I really love to investigate cases. And it gives me a chance to find it very interesting and also meet different people. And there's so many different kinds of cases that are going to get thrown your way. So, yeah.
So what kind of, you'd mentioned earlier about, you take on the cases that, because I'm sure you guys are really inundated with a lot of information, a lot of different sightings. So how do you determine a viable case?
Well, for me, I'm looking for cases that are the most compelling cases. Somebody submits a case to me, and they, sometimes people don't care about remaining anonymous. So they go on, there's a form, it's a, Google-based form that people fill out, and they check boxes. And then there's an area where they can, type in narratives and that kind of thing about, what exactly did you see? What is your story? Gives them a chance to explain their story. But sometimes you'll get a case, for an example, like, one guy submitted me a case where I think it ended up being like a hoax case. I wasn't able to investigate it because he wanted to remain anonymous. And one of the questions on there is, do you want an investigator to contact you, which currently is myself. And, they had checked it as no. Where it almost kind of kills the case right there, because there's not really much you can do with the case. If they don't want the case to be investigated, they can't follow through with it. I might be able to share my knowledge on some findings, but at that point, I'm really not going to go through and waste a lot of time with that if they don't want to do that. And also, the other thing is that, this particular guy said that he was in his house and he heard his chicken screaming. And then when he came out, the chicken was like just literally disintegrated. Well, I mean, that could have been some kind of animal or something that attacked his chicken that did that. I don't really know, but he thinks it was like some kind of mutilation. But he had like no video evidence, no photographic evidence, and he didn't want to be interviewed. No email, no nothing. So I thought, if this guy's really not that interested, just know not to bother with a case.
Sure.
So you're looking for things that are compelling, you know, drawings, videos, audio. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you find that the majority really want you to look into it further, or are more looking for maybe more of a safe space to be able to just kind of share their story?
Some people, you know, really their case investigated. Some just want to share their story, but they don't really want to follow through with it. And so the whole thing is sometimes like people are afraid to talk about certain things because they feel it might affect their job. You know, maybe their employer, they don't remain anonymous, okay? And so, and I remember, you know, investigating cases with MUFON, you know, we were told to always keep them anonymous, even if they don't care about that or not. So whenever I do a, you know, like, so basically what happens, I get a case, I go through and read it, and then, you know, I'll send an email out to the person that submitted the case and see, you know, when would be a good time I could set up a phone interview with them, and I could ask them questions and talk about their case. And you could learn a lot about people, you know, just by talking to them over the phone and you just listen to them. But what you're looking for is credibility. Does this person sound like it's credible? Well, they said that, you know, maybe like, you know, a guy and a girl were playing pool, you know, on the, you know, out by their patio or something, and they had a few friends over, and they said all of a sudden they're looking outside and they're seeing something. Now, if they're telling you like, yeah, you know, we were all hanging out and getting drunk and that, and maybe, you know, they were smoking some weed or something, maybe that clouded their judgment. So right there, it starts losing a little bit of credibility. Well, we were all drunk sitting around a campfire, you know, but yet they saw something. So the credibility for something like that starts downhill. Now, if you get somebody who was like a military pilot, you know, or somebody who is a passenger airplane pilot, and then they see something, you know, a lot of times it's given more weight as far as credibility goes. Absolutely. Than somebody that just, or somebody who has a science background, a PhD in astronomy or something like that, you know, it weighs heavily on that. So you try to, you know, ask questions, and you're careful about what questions you ask because you never bait the witness into what you want them to say. Like, you don't just get on there and say, well, yeah, that's definitely a UFO, because you don't know that yet. Like right now, you're just gathering the data. You're just putting data together. So you're asking questions to get a feel of what it is and what they know before you, you know, you want to investigate a case before you just throw out something out there.
Absolutely. And so we got a couple questions here in the chat room. And
yes.
Chris Sumner says, why do you think there has been a rise in UFO acceptance?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, there definitely is a rise. And, you know, people have been spotting UFOs, or the new term that's used more now, you know, UAPs, unidentified area phenomena. And, you know, this isn't something that's new. I mean, this has been around a long time ago. I mean, there's sightings that go back to, you know, 1950s and the 40s and stuff like that, where there were plenty of witnesses on a case. So I will say this, about 80 to 85% of what is seen or perceived as some UFO related type event, a lot of times that can be attributed to a man-made object, or it could be a natural phenomenon, it could be something weather-related, or it could be something astronomical. You know, maybe it was a star, maybe it was a planet. And it's like, you know, things can happen kind of in a weird way. For example, let's say you're standing at night in the backyard and you're behind the bushes and you're looking at the moon or you're looking at a planet, and all of a sudden you say, oh, wow, it's kind of moving from the left to the right. Well, but then you feel yourself moving. Well, it's you that's moving that gives the appearance that it's moving. So it's like, let's say you're driving through, maybe you're on your bike or in your car, and you go, man, I go, the moon was here and now it's like over here on my left, and it's following me or it's moving. That's what happens, when you're moving around, that what it can do objects. And so sometimes there's things like, stars that could appear to be an extraterrestrial vehicle, and they're not. But if you take the 80 to 85% that could be an IFO, identifiable flying object, let's say, then you have 20 to 15% that can't be explained. And this isn't just all over the United States. This is all over the world. There's a lot of stuff that you might not hear about out here, So, and you have, with all these TV shows that are going on that are about UFO subject matter, and I would say pretty much on a daily basis, I mean, you could look almost anything online in the news and there's going to be something that's UFO related. It's just on a daily basis now. So, maybe people that didn't believe before, they start thinking, you know what, maybe there really is something to this. And you're always going to have people, no matter what, they're just not going to believe. You just say, one person might say, hey, you know what, they may say, you know what, look over there, they're out on the beach and, there's Jesus walking across the water, and it could be like, oh, well, that's just photoshopped, or it's just a trick, I mean, they'll come up with something, they don't believe in God, they don't believe in the devil, or who knows what. And some people don't believe in things because of their own fears. They might be afraid of what's out there. For me, it doesn't personally scare me, just as well as being involved with paranormal investigations doesn't scare me either. Rather, I want to grasp what's out there and capture. I always find it very, very fascinating. So, so yeah, I mean, you have a lot of media attention there that's going to make people more curious about things. And now, even more before, you have more scientists and you have more pilots that are coming forward with sightings, with information.
Sure.
When you get for an example, a guy, an astronomer guy was talking about how, like we if you see pictures like of the Milky Way galaxy, or you're in a place where it's dark enough and you're looking up and you can see the galaxy, and all of a sudden, you're realizing, wait a minute, I'm in that galaxy that I'm looking up in the night sky that I can see. I'm in that Milky Way galaxy, which is gazillions and billions of miles from tip to tip. Yeah. So, and imagine if you have, like this guy was saying, that scientists, that there's billions and billions of planets that haven't even been discovered yet. So he says, like he was stating that it's naive to think that we're the only planet out there with, someone that's living. So that's kind of the way I look at it. With any that you have out there, there's something else that have living beings other than people here on Earth.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure the rise in technology, I mean, we all now have cell phones and cameras and everything, right at the tip of our fingers, whereas back, 30 years ago, the odds of somebody having a camera with them to be able to capture something that they're seeing, it was a little less likely. So I'm sure that's probably caused a rise in reports, I would guess.
Oh yeah, I mean, technology is an amazing thing. I mean, before, you mentioned the cell phone. I mean, I remember a long time ago, this guy had a car phone, a big old heavy car phone with a long antenna on it. And he was like walking around and people around the pool will be, wow, that guy must be rich because look at that, he's got this portable like phone and he could just walk around anywhere. And now, if somebody's looking at that same thing, like, what's that guy doing with that old relic, that's like 2 feet long, and so, back then, I mean, it was like if you needed to make a phone call, either you went to a pay phone or you had your home phone.
Mm-hmm.
And, after that, then the pager came out. So for work, I better get to a pay phone or got to go find a phone somewhere, maybe in a restaurant, make a phone call. And now it's like we had cell phones for so long now, we're used to that technology. So everybody's like, okay, we have an iPhone, 12 now, 13. Okay, what's next? What are you going to give me now? So, but yeah, technology has definitely played an important part of, what's out there and stuff like that. And I think that, the government little by little is warming. I believe that they're warming people up to, what's out there, extraterrestrial and that kind of thing. Because why is the government going to have these hearings if they didn't believe to all this? And that wasn't even the first hearing that they've had. They've had other things. I mean, even during the Clinton administration, they had a task force that was investigating UFOs. The CIA, the FBI, I mean, they all had their own secret investigations that were going on, where a lot of people didn't even know about it when it was happening.
Yeah, so. and that just that increase in technology and that increase in information, I think, is something that makes it. I guess it makes it appear more. I don't want to say more well known, but it's. I mean, we have so much more access to information. It's easier to access, so that probably makes it appear that way. Just because we all know the news almost essentially before it happens, and I know a lot of people that have been following the congressional hearings that they're having on this new information. We got a few more questions over here. I want to make sure I get to everybody before we move on here. Sheila Brown says, how often do you get real evidence? I know you had mentioned earlier, you were saying, that roughly 80% are IFOs or identifiable objects. Does that tend to be still that sort of 20% that is real evidence of potentially something out there?
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of times, so a lot when you get a case submitted to you, if it's through like MUFON or it's my organization, and MUFON has a lot because I mean they got teams of investigators for every state, and they're all over the United States as well as some European countries. Although, like Italy, they might get like one case a month, but that's because they have their own. They don't deal with MUFON much. They do a lot of their own investigating, which I'm involved with the Italian UFO Federation as well. As a USA ambassador, but that's not really doing investigations. Basically I collaborate with them on things and I submit articles and stuff to them. But so the thing is that, you have people that are hoaxsters that want to hoax a case, and make something up because they think it would be funny. And then you have people that legitimately just don't know. I mean, they thought they saw what appeared to them as an extraterrestrial craft. But then when you started conducting the case and investigating it, and then you found out that, what they saw was actually a very bright star that they thought was moving to them, and it really wasn't. So, like sometimes, you go outside and then you see something in the night sky and you think it's moving for a minute, but then you just have to hold still and see what happens. Now, all of a sudden, if you see it getting closer to you and it's got colored lights, it's probably a passenger jet or single engine aircraft or, you know, helicopter, you know, anything. But you know, sometimes you're going to get cases that are very compelling that you just can't classify it as a man-made object. I had one case where that was submitted to me, and this took place at a cemetery, okay? And the paranormal investigator, he goes out with this lady friend of his is also a paranormal investigator. And they like to try to make contact with spirits and that kind of thing. And they keep going to this one cemetery in Chicago, same place, because they've had really good paranormal experiences there. Well, they had their camera trees set up. On one particular occasion, you could see in the video, you know, the guy had the video, he had like one YouTube video in slow motion and the other in speed. So I actually ran it in a quarter speed, just kind of going frame by frame. Well, one part of the video, you can see that there's a spirit walking across the screen. You know, it's like all of a sudden it's just like, you know, it looked like some kind of apparition. It was this white, and it was just walking by. All of a sudden it was gone. And then you have the witness saying, you know, different things that they experienced that night. And one lady mentioned she was shining a flashlight, and then all of a sudden it was like somebody turned a flashlight on her, and it just reflected back to her face, which was really odd because there was nobody there on the other end. And in the video, you can see this big old thing that on the right side of the screen, it looks like this blob-looking thing that it just twists and turns different shapes. And, you know, and he's thinking maybe this is some kind of extraterrestrial portal of some sort. So sometimes you get those cases where, you know, I couldn't say 100% that it was extraterrestrial because I simply didn't know. You know, just looking at it, to me, you know, it could have been something paranormal. I mean, you could definitely see a portal, but the question remains, I mean, you know, was this something like the spirits go into this portal and it takes them to another dimension? Or was this extraterrestrial? Extraterrestrial and a paranormal ghostly event kind of cross each other at the same place. That's possible too. But every now and then, you know, you just run into things like, well, yeah, there's definitely something paranormal here took place. But I can't say that it wasn't UFO related or extraterrestrial related, and I can't say that it was, and I can't say it wasn't.
Well, that kind of actually ties very nicely with the next question from D. Hoot. She wants to know your thoughts on Dorothy, and I apologize if I say it wrong, Azat's 30,000 feet of 8mm film footage of UFOs and documentary capturing the light. She wants to know if you've seen that and if you have any thoughts on Bigfoot and alien ties.
As far as that, no, I'm not familiar with that, sorry to say. With all the UFO cases out there, it's hard to keep up with everything that's out there. As far as Bigfoot goes, if Bigfoot does exist, and there's a lot of people that think that it does, there's also a lot of people that feel there's not enough evidence to really say that Bigfoot really is out there, that Bigfoot exists. But you know, I think that would be something extraterrestrial in nature, of some kind of extraterrestrial species of some sort. You know, that I don't think, you know. And based on what people are saying this thing looks like, you know, it has to be some kind of primate of some sort, you know. What exactly, I don't know. I don't know enough about Bigfoot and haven't been involved in the investigations to really get an opinion on that.
How about the paranormal and ETs? Do you believe that those are more closely related and have ties together?
Yes, I do actually. I believe that sometimes they cross together. As an example, we did a for another organization that I'm part of, because I'm also the lead investigator for Phantom Detectives, and we've worked on several cases. And so one of the cases that we worked on was an apartment in Philadelphia, and I had a chance to interview the witness over the phone before we decided to take on the case. So, I have a set of questions that I went past them. So tell me what exactly has been going on where you live, like, we'll ask questions and stuff like, have you had, like, have you felt anything physically touch you or grab you, or weird things happen, weird knocking noises, or, maybe electrical things turning on and off, which sometimes there can be an explanation that something with the TV or an electrical disturbance of some sort. But we went in there with our psychic medium, and we went in. We have like probably over 100 pieces of paranormal investigation equipment. So we go into this guy's apartment, and we're doing an investigation. And I mean, we had everything. We had our thermal camera out there and REM pods. So we did our EVP session. We had our SLS camera. We were using our dowsing rods and all that kind of stuff. And we actually had very good contact with, paranormal activity going on. And one of the things we did, which was using my S-Ghost box, doing AM/FM sweep, where some people refer to it as using a ghost box. So all of a sudden, I'm listening to it, my headphones on, and I have there's a built-in SD card that records everything. And I hear some lady dropping the F-bombs, yelling at me there. And right away I knew, well, that's not going to be on some show, because they're not going to allow that on the airwaves. I'm on radio.
Right.
Use that bad language like that. So, and as we're asking questions and things like that, we had determined that there were like 8 spirits in the house, in that apartment. And the guy complained about, he feels something grabbing him while he's sleeping in his bed at night and stuff like that. And when we left that place, I mean, he just looked really sick and drained and things like that. We were actually ill for like 3 days when we left that place, because there's so much negative energy in there. And this particular guy later on had sent me a case that was a separate case that he did through my organization, because this was based on what he claimed was an abduction case, that he was an abductee. And he sent me photo markings, skin markings on his body and stuff like that. It was, very compelling. I've not been able to finish and close out his case, because nobody knows where he's at. It's like the guy just disappeared off the face of the earth, basically. Wow. And, that guy sent me footage of, you're looking in the window inside the house, and it looked like a face of a person with the hat on, looking through the window. And I asked him, I said, was there anybody outside the window or anything? Maybe somebody walking around that was like looking in your window? And he said, no, there was nothing. He had checked, there's nothing out there whatsoever. And he captured that. And there was another time where, because what this guy did was he set camera all over his house in every room, because he thought, I'm going to start capturing someone that want to prove it. Well, we came up with very compelling evidence, and you could see pixelated images of what appeared to be some type of something paranormal, maybe some kind of ghostly entity or something like that. And then right in the corner of the room, you could see this space that looked like really evil, just like you think you're looking at the devil or something. And it was really scary. I had another where this head looked like the head of an alien, and it had the eyes and the tapered face and the whole thing. And he felt that there was something extraterrestrial going on as well as paranormal. So, you know, based on what I saw, I definitely think that the two paths can cross each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fascinating and a little scary too. One, you know, that you haven't been able to communicate with him since that time, and then also just the fact it almost sounds like that's kind of an ideal type case, because you know you were talking about the people who really want to get answers. It really sounds like he was trying to do everything he could to document and try to capture something because of everything he had going on.
Yeah, definitely. And you could see how, you know, sometimes when you're going through things like, you know, we were telling them, like, you know, we're staying in this apartment with all this paranormal activity. We were able to determine through our psychic, who's really pretty spot on, because she doesn't read the history of anything when she goes in to investigate, and she could put her hands on things and pick up stuff and say, okay, well, Abraham Lincoln was here in this museum, and all of a sudden we find out later that there's something that backs up what she said, that documents that. Not that they're always 100% right,
Sure.
but she's pretty accurate on stuff. And then, you know, the fact that, you know, this guy had all these things happen to them, you know, he claims that he showed these pictures, these photographs of marks on his body. And I couldn't find anything online that had what looked like the exact same marking. That anybody can grab pictures off the internet and say, look, these are my skin markings that happened to me. But, you know, I wasn't able to find. So I wanted to take pictures of any skin markings presently, like, what do you have on you now? And would you allow me to photograph it? Well, the answer was yes, but then I never got a chance to do that. So in those cases can get very complicated because, you know, a lot of times, you know, you have to go under hypnosis, sometimes see a medical doctor, things like that, or, you know, somebody look at their skin to outrule that, you know, it's not some kind of skin disease or, you know, something like that that's on their body. But you know, some things that are just crazy, like somebody has an implanted device that was found between a lot of times it'll be found between the thumb and forefinger here. And it could be like a little round metal, what appears to be metal, but it's of some unknown metallic object that when let's say like from, you know, being in war or something, some shrapnel just blew into your body. And, you know, how do you explain stuff like that? You know, when all of a sudden you're getting x-rays or something else, and you're having we call it MRI done or something, to say, hey, you know, there's this weird thing that's in your neck, you know, planet, you know, and that's pretty scary. You're like, then you're wondering, like, how did this get into my body? And many people that have been abducted have had things like that happen to them, you know.
Wow, and that kind of leads to the next question from Sheila Holland. She says, have you investigated any cases that included abduction? And if so, what was your conclusion on the evidence? I guess, you know, because you kind of answered that a little bit, but to kind of tie off that, do you typically have a lot of abduction cases or just more sightings?
More sightings. I would like to get involved with more abduction cases. But for an example, like the one that I had with this particular witness, the guy that we did a paranormal investigation in his apartment. So after, you know, I did the investigation with him, you know, he filled out the form, and I did the recording and all that. I sent that information off to this lady that lives in Italy, who works with this Italian surgeon that deals with removing implanted devices and things like that. And so she had sent me like this big list of this Dr. Barbara, I can't remember her last name, but anyway, where she was like some expert on abductions, right? This whole list of questions that she said you know that you should ask the abductee, and some of them I didn't agree with them. A lot of questions that I did, you know, they talk about missing time and things like that, and so, you know, I've only personally dealt with one case, which was the gentleman that I mentioned. I know, like, you know, with MUFON, they have a special team that deals strictly with abduction cases. So, but that's something I definitely like to get into more. And I always, something like that, I always like to get second opinions with people that are experts in the field of that more than myself, to get their opinion. And the way, you know, the way I always kind of look at things is that I don't know everything, but, you know, I try to learn as much as I can as I go along.
Absolutely. And being out there and doing it is kind of one of the best teachers. So let's talk just briefly about the implants and these doctors that remove them. Is that something, so if you end up, say you go have an MRI or an X-ray and find an implant in you that, you know, you've never had been shot, never had shrapnel or anything, can you just go to your, I guess, your general practitioner and question this? Or are there certain surgeons or practitioners that kind of deal with this a little bit more than others?
There are certain experts still that do deal with that, and I think that you know, there's probably a lot of doctors that, if you know, it might be their first time around for, you know, maybe it's their first time for removing something like that, and they're trying to figure out, they're just as puzzled as you, like, how did that get inside your body? You know, what is it? And from what I know, so these objects that are found, I mean, it could be the size of like a little BB, it could be like a grain of rice, it could come in like different shapes. They could be like, you know, behind the neck or in the hand, or, you know, certain place body. And they do say that a lot of times they're covered with membrane so tough they can't even cut through it with a scalpel. I mean, to me, that's incredible, because scalpels are pretty sharp. So, and the fact that they're giving off high EMF readings, you know, I mean, that's just crazy by itself. I mean, you're scanning somebody and you're getting EMF, you know, your K2 meter is going off on this person that you're scanning, you know, and it's not a microwave, or, you know, you're not close to any energy sources that are doing that. And then they pull out the devices, and then, so, and some people really get scared about stuff like that, you know, because they're thinking like, you know, imagine all of a sudden one day you have no idea how it got there, and, you know, now you feel like you want, a lot of times they just want these things out of their body. They don't even want them in there, they just want them out. You know?
Do most people have them removed, or do, I mean, from your research that you've heard, you know, through working with MUFON and ERC and the Italian network, have you found that most people do have them removed, or do they just kind of live with it?
That's really a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but I will say that a lot of the people that have received knowledge that they have something like that implanted in their body, and they, you know, they just don't want it in there, you know, because it's like a foreign thing. You know, they, you know, your first thing is like, okay, you know, why do I have this? I shouldn't have this in my body. You know, it's not shrapnel, and, you know, it's, and then, you know, if you're thinking it's some kind of transmitter, keep track of you, you know, because why else would something be implanted in your body. It's not there for decoration. You know what I mean? It's not there to show your family and friends, say, look, you're not going to see it anyway. So
Exactly.
the only logical explanation is that this implanted device is a way to be able to keep track of your whereabouts, you know, what you're doing, things like that. You know? So
Wow.
a lot of the experts feel that, you know, as to why people are being abducted. Sometimes one person will be abducted more than one time, and sometimes it'll happen to their children. It just kind of carries over into the family. You know, sometimes they'll keep choosing the same kind of people. At times during hypnosis and stuff, you know, it could be very painful for them to relive these events. You know, they'll be saying like how much pain they were, they're afraid, or laying on something that was like a cold metal table. And they mentioned sometimes there's like groups of three, like three extraterrestrial beings around them. You know, maybe it could be more, I don't know. But you know, people will ask like, well, you know, why are they doing this? And the fact that they're extracting fluids and things like that, you know, I think what they're doing is they want to extract that DNA and mix that DNA with the DNA from their own to try to create some kind of hybrid. So that's what all the experts in that subject are talking about, the theory on that.
Okay. Well, Jerry says, has there been any testing on the makeup of the metal from these implants?
Yes, I have read that there has been some testing on some of this, and the composition is unknown to mankind. They aren't able to identify as any composition that we have here on Earth, you know, and therefore that, you know, maybe you know, this is something that is like a piece of a meteor or some kind of other component that we don't have that comes from another planet.
Wow.
As far
That's
as how much testing's been done, that I don't really know enough about that to really say. But from what I've read, that there has been a little bit of testing on that, and they haven't been able to identify what the object was. And if you see, like, I mean, I've seen, you know, X-rays and stuff. I mean, you can go on YouTube and you could see there's also video footage that will show you X-rays that show implanted devices, and they have different shapes.
Wow.
And so they're not able to figure out what these are. And they come in so many different shapes. And some look more like, you know, almost like a capsule piece of metal or something weird that looks like a part like that might go in a valve inside a faucet somewhere, or something strange, but very tiny. And you know, that's got to be some kind of transmitter.
Wow. That's fascinating and great question, Jerry. D. Hoot asks, she said, let's say you can validate your sightings. What do you do with that information then?
Well, what I do is, so if I have a case that I think is very compelling, you know, I got photographic evidence, I have video evidence, and I feel that the witness I spoke to is very credible. You know, for an example, this lady that I spoke with, who was high up in the military and worked at Dover Air Force Base in the state of Delaware. That's where they ship a lot of bodies and stuff of U.S. soldiers. So, but I mean, even interviewing that lady, and with her background being in the military, as credible as she is, sometimes things people see are not as what it seems. So, for an example, like I get this Category 3 case submitted to me, and I was with MUFON at the time. And so her claim was that, she was walking her dog, and it was kind of a, cloudy day, looked like it was going to rain and all that. And then there's this like man-made lake. And this is on a residential street. There's this grassy area, and then in the middle is a made lake. And then there's these geese that were kind of walking around. And she wanted to take a picture because she thought it was all cute. They were all lined up and everything. So she took a picture, and, she said her dog scared. The dog took off and ran. Well, just because people will start, the brain will start working. It's like, they'll say, okay, well, my dog, there must be something there because my dog got scared to death, but I'm not sure what it is. Well, she gets home, she looks at these photographs she has, and one of the photographs, she thinks she sees a saucer-shaped object, like black, and it was shaped like a saucer and all this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And in the other picture, she thinks she's looking at a giant reptilian that's in the background. Like, wow, I hope this isn't what I is. And apparently she had stuff happen to her past that she didn't want to talk about. And all this, I think, was just kind of playing on her fear, building up. And we went out to investigate. We came out and tried to brought our Geiger counter out there and make sure that there was no radiation out there, because if there's any radiation out there, we weren't going to do anything. And, we had our yellow caution tape. We called the local police, told them we're going to come out. We're conducting an investigation out there. We were going to take soil samples, everything. So one of the things first I did is when I looked at the photograph, I magnified it, which she thought was reptilian times 200%. And when I looked at it at 200%, what first looked like kind of the shape of a reptilian face, the shoulders and all that, yeah, it kind of had that shape. But then I could clear that all it was just a big old tree, right? Mm. She thought, well, yeah, but you could see the eyes on there, okay? So, we go out there. Okay, I go to the exact spot according to the photograph, and I said, okay, I could see where the tree's at. So the next thing I'm looking for, at first we thought, well, maybe there was a bear up there or something, that was at the top of the tree. So the next thing we did is we looked at the tree, and the bark, you could just easily peel it off with your fingers. Mm-hmm. So I knew right away, being that there was no history of any bears being reported in the area for a long time, if a bear had climbed on that tree, some of that bark would have been peeled back, and you could see the fresh pink color behind the bark, which I was able to see when I peeled the bark back. I was also looking for any kind of like animal scat or anything like that. Couldn't find anything like that. And what she saw that she thought were two eyes were actually some pine cones that were at the top of the tree that made it look like an eye. So, objects can make you sometimes think what you see, you think it exists, but it's not really that it is. Like, you could literally stick something in the bushes that looks kind of foreign and weird, and you could ask 5 different people, well, what is that? And, they all might give you a different answer. They can't see it very well. They think it must be this or it must be that. And it's the same like pictures, paranormal investigation. You're thinking like, okay, well, nobody was standing there, so I know it's not one of us, because we're really careful about when we take thermal images. There could be no one there, no pets, no people, no nothing, because then all of a sudden, if we think we're seeing an entity of some sort, and that was you, it's kind of upsetting, because, you never want to take pictures. Don't do thermal camera images with people there. But like you'll look at something and then you'll think it's like, oh, wow, this looks like the face of this. And then you turn the image upside down and it looks like something completely different, So in that particular case, the class 3 case with that lady, there was no reptilian. We didn't even get to the soil sample parts because we knew exactly what it wasn't. And what she thought was a flying saucer, or, I'd say extraterrestrial. It wasn't at all. Look at the picture, you see this big old black thing, but there was no detail to it. Number one, if it was something like that, it being it's a residential street, somebody else would have seen that. There was no reportings of anybody calling into the local authorities of a reported extraterrestrial craft. There was none of that. And one thing that I studied was that a lot of times you think of when the sun comes out and around a building and there's shade on one side, well, because or a building blocks out the light source and then it creates a shadow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I conducted a study when it's a cloudy day, the sun's not out and you have these dark clouds. And I found out that yes, you could still have shadows because I was watching the cars drive by when the roads were wet and you could still see the underneath the car because it was still blocking out some of the light source. So what she thought was an extraterrestrial craft was merely the way the light hit a large grouping of trees that made the shadow cast to like a round object. And the fact that there was no definition to this object, you know, there was no ports, no windows, no definition of this object other than what looked just like this big black shadow, led us to believe that, you know, this is definitely not an extraterrestrial craft. So, and it was a credible witness because it would work in the military high up.
Mm-hmm.
But she was happy that it wasn't that. But I think some things happened in her past, and her fears had played upon her to make her think something's there that wasn't.
Sure. And I mean, and you know, why not check if you're, you know, if you're curious. I was going to ask what her reply was when you told her. Do you find that most people, you know, if you're able to essentially debunk or come up with an answer to their claim, do you find that most people are accepting of that and happy, or do you find that, I know I find this in some paranormal cases, you know, a lot of the time they don't necessarily want to accept it.
You're 100% right. You know, sometimes you have people that are just, you know, they're almost offended or insulted that, you know, they insist that what they saw is what they saw. And you could only express your findings and what you feel about the case.
Sure.
And any evidence you have or any evidence you don't have. And so, so basically, like, you know, sometimes you'll get people that, you know, you interview them on the phone and right away they want you to agree with them and say, well, you know, well, do you definitely think that that was extraterrestrial? Do you think that was an alien being, or do you think that was an extraterrestrial craft of some sort? So my answer to them is that, well, right now I'm just gathering the data and I'm researching the case, so I can't give out any information until the case has been thoroughly completed. So I would rather disprove something first, if I can, and debunk it, than just throw something out there and say, okay, yeah, it's definitely, you know, an extraterrestrial vehicle. And at first I thought, you know, to investigating with MUFON and all that, after the state director told me, well, you know, my neighbors just think I'm crazy, you know, because stuff and things like that. And, you know, okay, luckily I haven't had anybody yet that thought, okay, you know, this guy's a loony bit, but if they think I am, that's okay. I'm okay with it. You know, I'm not going to twist anybody's arm to sway them, to force them to believe what I believe. But, you know, I quickly learned, you know, through my investigator training, that it's important as an investigator to do a thorough and honest investigation and to go based on the evidence, to go based on the facts, and not just to throw, you know, you got to put some work into it, and you can't say, okay, yeah, you know what, yeah, it must be a UFO because you said it was, so therefore it probably was. You know, that's kind of the thing. Because if you have, if you have a bunch of people just throwing answers out there and just, yeah, okay, everything's terrestrial in nature when it's not, I mean, they're just lying to people, and you can't do that. A good investigator doesn't do that.
Exactly.
And the same goes with paranormal investigators as well.
Absolutely.
Come again? What was that?
I was going to say, and it sounds like, you're very thorough with your investigations, with going out, taking soil samples, going out, trying to recreate the situation. I know personally for myself in paranormal, one of the things that's one of the most frustrating things is because obviously, personal experiences are really challenging sometimes, because not being there, it's kind of hard, to either debunk or to prove the personal experience. But one of the things that's really tough for me is when people send me pictures and I'm going through and looking at the pictures to try to determine whether there's some type of logical explanation. And 9 times out of 10, I'm going to ask, because a lot of the time they'll send kind of like a zoomed in picture. And so it's like you can't tell what you're looking at that point. Plus, you've already changed the integrity of the picture by zooming in on it at that point. And I'm always asking people, can you go back and can you send me this picture in the light so that I can see the surroundings? And send multiple pictures when you send it to me. And so to me, that's probably one of the most frustrating things, when somebody sends you a picture of something that's zoomed in to 3,200% and it's already pixelated and such, and you really don't have a fair base to go and analyze,
to really go off of it. Or one of the cases we investigated too in Pennsylvania was at this young couple's house, who there was another person who started setting up cameras and things like that. And they were experiencing different paranormal things happening to them, weird noises and things touching them and stuff like that. And in one of the videos, his girlfriend was sleeping in the master bedroom. And next to the video, you can see an elderly lady that was laying in the bed next to her. And this thing was pretty clear, right? Mm-hmm. So, when I started talking about that, was that your grandmother or her grandmother or something? No, it wasn't. So that was a scary thing. And they come later to find out, they did some research and found out that there was a lady there, an elderly lady that passed away. And when I saw a picture of her, it looked exactly like the lady in the black and white video that he had picked up on the video recorder through his camera system. And just stuff like that. But it was just nuts. And there's just things like, we go into the children's room because they said that was a real hot spot of things going off, and sometimes, I'm sure you've had this happen too, you go in on paranormal investigation and the spirits will choose certain things to set off and maybe not others. Like they maybe want to set off the REM pod. Mm-hmm. But they don't, nothing on the K2 meter, or, maybe EVP session, maybe you're not getting any kind of communication. But like everything was going off like crazy in the kids' room. You had a scare bear up there with the LED lights that go off on this thing. Mm-hmm. And that thing was going off like crazy. And when the psychic there felt a child in the room that we were communicating with, I had these little that light up and start blinking, but you have to actually touch them to go off. Mm-hmm. They were going off like crazy. So we had the bear going off and that going off, and then the director of our paranormal team had his REM pod was going off like crazy. I mean, sometimes you get those cases where you got like a gazillion things happening, and somebody has to touch this device to set it off, and it's going off. I mean, that's pretty compelling evidence right there.
Absolutely. So which came first for you, the paranormal or the extraterrestrial?
Actually, doing, being a field investigator, that was first, and going from that to starting my own organization. And from there, a guy had found me on LinkedIn and said, hey, I'd like to use your skills on a paranormal investigation, and if you want to try it out. And investigation, we went in, investigated the Betsy Ross house in downtown Philly. And that was really cool. And then during the EVP session in the basement, and it's weird, it's really weird how sometimes you won't hear any sound at all, right? And you take your EVP recording and you put your headphones on and listen to it. Now all of a sudden you're getting weird sounds that you just don't hear, but they're in the device, right? Crazy stuff. And I'm going through and listening to it, and you can hear these like really sinister growls. It's like twisting, turning, deep growling kind of sound. And at the time, there was nothing outside that would have made that noise. There was nothing in the room that, would have made that noise. So, and the few people that listen to it, they go, wow, you really picked something up there in the basement. So.
Wow. So, so I'm actually going to pull up your site that you were talking about here. And if you will, because we're coming up toward almost close to 10:30 here. And so we'll go ahead and kind of start to wrap things up. But I want to give you an opportunity.
Time flies when you're having fun. Yeah.
I know, right? I mean, I could talking about because I don't get a lot of people on here talking about UAPs and UFOs, and so I always enjoy having that.
Yeah.
And so we'll definitely have to have you back, and you need to bring in some of your evidence with your paranormal team. But I want to pull up your page. And,
I got some cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and give people the opportunity so that they can tell you. I mean, so that you can tell them the best way to find you, and if they have a experience that they would like to reach out and have you research, what the best way for all that is.
Well, first and foremost, you're the first person that actually put my website up and shared it up there. So I thank you for that. It's very cool that you did that. So anybody who wants to visit my website, they can go to www.erc and the number 2 explore.com. That's ERC number 2 explore.com. And that'll take you to my homepage. And from there,
and I'm going to put that in the show notes there.
There's a lot of sub-menus within these main menus as well. So, there's a lot of different things. You could go and report a sighting, or there's really cool videos and stuff you could watch. There's also a couple of featured cases that are on there. I have a couple more that I'm going to be putting on there soon. But in this one here, so basically all they would have to do is click on the sighting report button, and they'll do a form that they fill out. And and so I did a good job. And from there, they can, just scroll down and look at, go through different videos.
Okay. Let's see. Let me jump back. It took me to a new page there. There we go. Yeah, there we go. I like that. I like
so
that.
You can see this really cool UFO glossary in there. Yeah.
This is a great
now,
resource.
I will say that everything looks better on the laptop. Oh, thank you. Everything looks better on the laptop and the PC than it does on the cell phone view, because for whatever reason, some of the stuff that's on the cell phone, it's really hard to get it to fit in very, very nice. Some things, you'll not really get it to. Of course, I'm not writing any call do-it-yourself page where you're using the different tools to build a website. But this is cool here because you can go through all the different terms and see the glossary.
That's really nice, especially for people who want to one, learn more about it, and two, that have experienced this, that are just trying to learn a little bit more about things they've been experiencing. And this is a really great resource.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, there's definitely a lot of stuff there to look at. And, originally it just started out with, like 4 or 5 tabs. And then when I realized, I can't fit any more stuff up top, then I had to do all the submenus and things. So thank goodness for that, But yeah, and then this here is the reference page up there's to be adding more to that page. That is the Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Conference that's going to be coming up in October. And our organization is involved helping promote this organization. And as crazy it may sound, so what this organization is working on is, the name of the organization is AEDC, which stands for the Alliance of Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact. And they have a working budget of right now about $150 million. And what they're trying to do is find a host country who will allow them to build an embassy for extraterrestrials. So when they feel that when extraterrestrials come here on our planet, they will have their own embassy. And surprisingly, as crazy as it sounds, I know it sounds a little crazy, but there's a lot of people that are behind this, and they have the money right now to start building. It's just, they're working on getting government approval to have this embassy for extraterrestrial. So, yeah. But some people think it's, a little bit out there. But the more, when I talk to these guys that are running this and seeing what they're doing, I mean, they come from science backgrounds and things like that. I mean, there's a lot of people that's behind this building this embassy for terrestrials.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah, so definitely, guys, you want to go check out Rick's page. I do have the link here in the comments, and then it's easy to find, ERC2explore.com. We also have it in the show notes, and so definitely go spend some time, check that out, and check out Rick's work. You're also very active on LinkedIn. Is that correct?
Yes, I am. That's how this show came about there. I have
Absolutely
found some good resources there. Some people that came and sought me out too as well, and able to do some radio shows and podcasts. So I definitely think LinkedIn is a very good place to network with other people. And a lot of times you can find free seminars and things that take place on LinkedIn. So that's
absolutely
cool.
Absolutely. And if folks want to find more out about phantom detectives, do you have a page for that? I actually did not see a website for that.
Yes. So phantomdetectives.org one, and there's also that website that's owned by Joshua Chairs, the director of Phantom Detectives.
Okay.
We've also appeared in several paranormal magazines. There's 3 of them we've appeared in so far, and there's about 2 or 3 other magazines we're going to be on the cover, and they're going to do articles on us in the magazine. So we're also on YouTube as well. So if you type in Phantom Detectives, you can see some of our videos and stuff like that. And we try to make video is very interesting, using colored LED lights. You know, like one video might be green and the other one's like, you know, infrared or blue, or, you know, so it just makes it a little more exciting than just a plain, like, kind of white light, you know. But so yeah, so we have videos there that, you know, we're putting up all the time. So you can visit Phantom Detectives at phantomdetectives.org. And then there's darkmatternews.com, which is another website that my director owns, that it's for, used to be owned by Art Bell, and he purchased that website from
Very
him.
cool.
So,
and we'll make sure we have all of that.
It's got everything extraterrestrial. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. We'll make sure we have all that updated in the show notes there, and also on the YouTube channel and anywhere that this video is going to air. So folks, go on there, definitely check out his paranormal team, Phantom Detectives, and subscribe to their YouTube channel, as well as darkmatternews.com, and then also phantomdetectives.org, and check them out. So I'm, again, thank you everyone for your wonderful questions and comments. You know, you guys help make the show what it is and help make it very interesting. So I really appreciate all of you watching as well as interacting. And thank you so much, Rick, for taking the time to come on tonight. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, and we'll definitely have to have you back and talk more about your paranormal cases as well.
Yeah, you know, definitely. You know, I got some really good guests out there. I think it would be great for you also. And I'd come on with their team from Phantom Detectives. And maybe I'd love to do another show with you on ERC. And I could share some pictures of you of some ancient alien artifacts, photographs that were sent to me based on stuff that was found in Mexico that has been carbon tested as being very, very old, you know, very ancient. And these are like the alien artifacts that, you know, you look at them and you go, well, that's definitely the head of an alien with the lion-shaped eyes and the almond-shaped head. Yeah, crazy stuff. And then the guy that sent me all these pictures on LinkedIn, he sent me a videotape showing all this stuff in his house in these glass cabinets. So I knew that he wasn't just, you know, pulling my chain, just sending me some pictures that were out there.
Wow. And as Vicki Norris says, she says, yes, please do another show with that evidence.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to do that. I thank you so much for allowing me to come on your show. I had a great time. I really did.
Absolutely. And so I'm gonna pull you out for just a second, and if you'll stick around for just a few minutes, we'll catch up right after the show, and I will also kick you some dates of some openings that I have coming up. But I'm just going to cover just a little bit of business, and then I'll get right with you.
Sounds good.
All right. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys so much. As I said, you know, thank you for your questions, your comments, and for sticking with us. We'll definitely have Rick back, and we will have him come and show us some of that evidence that he mentioned. Just want to check the calendar right here, because, you know, we've been booking up for shows, and we're pretty well booked up through July with just a couple openings left. But next week, I'm going to have Ronnie D from Old South Pitt Hospital, as well as the brand new Old Harriman Hospital in Harriman, Tennessee, which is our neighbors here at the historic Scott County Jail. It's our neighbors about 45 minutes down to the south. So Ronnie is going to be on. I know a lot of you folks know him. He's going to be on talking about his locations and the really cool things that he's got coming up. And then we're going to be kicking off June, which, wow, it's hard to believe it's June, but we are going to have Dan Terry on, and I am so very much looking forward to this interview as well. He is I was actually on his show not too long ago, a few weeks ago, and he is he's a retired police officer, and has some amazing stories. He investigates jails. We're going to be talking about several of his books. I've actually been reading up on those books, and being that one of the co-owners of a jail now. That's a location that is really near and dear to me. So I'm really looking forward to hearing his stories. And then we will, the week after that, we're going to it's going to be we've got a couple things planned for that. But as I said a few minutes ago, this weekend, the second annual Harold Young Memorial Scholarship Ride, you want to be there because, again, got a lot of really great things going on. That starts at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The meetup place is the historic Scott County Jail at 214 Lytton Covered Bridge Road. And that's where you're going to play your first hand of darts. Again, more information online, and you don't pay in advance, you pay there at the jail, and that's where you throw your first hand of darts. And then also next weekend, May 28th, the Ghost Biker Explorations Historic Scott County Jail and RM Brooks 98-mile Memorial Day weekend ride and guided tour. So that's something had a lot of fun in years past. So we're really looking forward to that again this year. So more information coming on that one, but you want to go ahead and get the tickets because we do need 8 bikes for the ride to make. And that way we can get a good head count, because again, you get a lot of really cool stuff with this. So we want to make sure it goes off without a hitch. So anyways, if anyone has any questions on that, you can reach out to me on the Ghost Biker Explorations Facebook page through Messenger. And also on the Ghost Biker Explorations website. We've got all this information on upcoming events that's on there as well. So again, thank you all so very much. I hope to see you this weekend. If I do not see you this weekend, then I will definitely see you next Thursday night. So take care, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.